Have you ever heard of the richest black girl in America? What if I told you she was just 11 years old, born into a family that had been enslaved, became a millionaire in the early 1900s? This isn't a fairy tale. This is the incredible, forgotten story of Sarah Rector, a young girl from Oklahoma whose life took a turn no one could have ever predicted. Her journey from a humble cabin to unimaginable wealth is a testament to chance, resilience, and a fight for control against a system that tried to take everything from her. So how did a little girl from a marginalized community become one of the wealthiest people in the country? And why has her story been buried for so long? Stick around, because you're about to find out. Sarah's story begins in a place and time full of complex history. She was born in 1902 near the all-black town of Taft, Oklahoma. Her family were Muskogee Creek freedmen. This means her ancestors had been enslaved by members of the Muskogee Creek Nation. After the Civil War, through a treaty in 1866, these formerly enslaved people, known as freedmen, were granted citizenship and rights within the Creek Nation. One of these rights was a land allotment. Under the Dawes Allotment Act, each Creek citizen, including children like Sarah, was given a parcel of land. Now, you might be thinking, land? That sounds valuable, but hold on. The land given to freedmen was often the worst of the worstraki, fertile and considered completely unsuitable for farming. Sarah's allotment, about 160 acres, was exactly that. It was so poor that her father, Joseph Rector, couldn't even pay the annual property tax of about $30. He tried to sell the land, but the law prevented it. The land was seen as a burden, a worthless piece of rock and dirt. Little did they know a fortune was hiding right beneath their feet. To help cover the tax burden, Sarah's father decided to lease her land to a major oil company, the Standard Oil Company. This was a common practice. Families would lease their land for a small fee, hoping to make at least something from it. They had no expectation of striking it rich. It was just a way to handle the tax bill. In 1913, an independent oil driller working on that lease hit a gusher. It wasn't just any oil. This well started producing an astonishing 2,500 barrels of crude oil a day. Overnight, the worthless piece of land started generating an income for Sarah that was almost unbelievable for the time. She went from poverty to earning over $300 a day. Today's money, that's equivalent to over $8,000 every single day. By the time she was a teenager, she was a millionaire, with her wealth growing exponentially. Newspapers across the country caught wind of the story, dubbing her the richest black girl in America. Her fame exploded. She received letters from all over the world, including marriage proposals and requests for money. But with great wealth came great problems, especially for a young black girl in early 20th century America. The law at the time stated that Native Americans, black adults, and children who were wealthy citizens were deemed incompetent to manage their own money. The court had to assign a well-respected white guardian to oversee their finances. So, despite Sarah's incredible fortune, she and her family had no legal control over it. A white man named T.J. Porter was appointed as her guardian. This is where the story takes a dark turn. The guardianship system was notoriously corrupt. Many guardians mismanaged, embezzled, and outright stole from the very people they were supposed to protect. Sarah's family watched as her fortune was controlled by a stranger. Rumors began to circulate that Sarah was living in poverty, dressed in rags, while her guardian lived lavishly off her money. These rumors reached prominent black leaders and publications. W.E.B. Du Bois, founder of the NAACP, became concerned and published an article in the Crisis magazine, calling for an investigation into Sarah's welfare. The public outcry worked. The NAACP and the Bureau of Indian Affairs launched an investigation. They found that while some of the more extreme rumors were untrue, Sarah was attending a boarding school, the management of her estate was highly questionable. The pressure forced a change. Her guardianship was eventually transferred from T.J. Porter to others, and her father fought hard to gain more control. This public scrutiny helped protect Sarah from the worst of the exploitation that many others faced under the guardianship system. It was a battle not just for money, but for her autonomy and her family's dignity. As Sarah grew older, she became more and more savvy. She wasn't just a passive recipient of wealth. She was a smart businesswoman. When she turned 18 in 1920, she was finally free from the guardianship system. She was now a multimillionaire, with a net worth estimated to be over $1 million, which would be well over $15 million today. She already owned stocks, bonds, a boarding house, a bakery, a restaurant in Muskogee, Oklahoma, and acres of prime real estate. She moved with her family to Kansas City, Missouri, purchased a grand stone mansion that became known as the Rector Mansion. It was a statement. In a segregated city, a young black woman bought a luxurious home in what was traditionally a white neighborhood. She lived a life of glamour, owning fancy cars, hosting parties, and rubbing shoulders with jazz legends like Duke Ellington and Count Basie. She was living the American dream, but on her own terms. She married Kenneth Campbell and had 3 sons, proving that she was in charge of her own life and legacy. However, Sarah's immense wealth couldn't shield her from the realities of the time. She faced both racial and gender discrimination. She was an anomaly, a wealthy, independent black woman in a world that wasn't ready for one. She also experienced financial setbacks. The Great Depression hit her fortune hard, and like many wealthy individuals of the era, she lost a significant portion of her wealth. But she didn't lose everything. She continued to live a comfortable life, far from the poverty of her childhood. Sarah Rector passed away in 1967 at the age of 65. She was buried back in Taft, Oklahoma, the town where her incredible journey began. Over time, her story, once headline news, faded from public memory. It was a story America seemed to forget, a story of a young black girl who struck it rich, fought a corrupt system for control of her own destiny, and lived a life of extraordinary circumstances. Her life is a powerful reminder of the forgotten histories of black success and resilience, and the constant struggle for economic justice and self-determination. Sarah Rector's story is more than just a rags-to-riches tale. It's a powerful lesson about wealth, race, and power in America. It highlights the systemic injustices that tried to control her, and the strength it took for her and her advocates to fight back. Her legacy is not just in the money she made, but in the life she fought to live on her own terms. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button, subscribe for more hidden histories, and share this video to make sure Sarah Rector's name is never forgotten again. See you next time.